Hi folks, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande. Welcome to the another video on solid principles, and in this video we will continue our discussion about how to refactor our code to comply with solid principles. In the previous video we have already seen how to refactor a code to make it comply with single responsibility principle, that is SRP. Now what we will do is we will refactor our existing code, which you can find here in this particular repo. This was the unfactored code when we started the refactoring, and after refactoring this is what we have ended up with. This code is now satisfying the single responsibility principle, but now it is time to move further and refactor this to make it compliant with open and closed principle, that is OCP, the second principle of the solid principle. So how do we go about it? So let's have a look at the code. If you are not familiar with this, I suggest that you go back to the previous video and understand what we have done so far. But now we will continue from the previous video where the code is already refactored with SRP and move further. We will get started with engagement manager, which basically is used to do different kind of engagements between the staff, student and then subject. There is a problem with this approach. Say for example, if you have engagement 1 and you have a engagement 2 and you have a engagement 3, there is no clear way to distinguish between these three things, and that is a problem. Now how do we solve this? Well, what we can do is we can refactor this by creating a separate class called as engagement strategy, and then there will be multiple subclasses of this particular engagement strategy, maybe strategy 1, strategy 2, and depending upon what kind of engagement strategy that you pass to the engaged students function, the way the engagement gets configured changes. This is nothing but a very familiar design pattern called as strategy design pattern. So what we will do is, first of all, we will create a interface, and let me call it as engagement strategy, and this will have the function engage students, and then there can be multiple subclasses of this particular engagement strategy interface, that is classes which implement this particular engagement strategy. So what we can do is we can create a strategy called as lecture engagement, which implements the engagement strategy. So this kind of engagement is basically the lecture classes scheduling. I am just printing something here, but in reality you can actually make it as much complicated as possible. Sometimes it could be a workshop engagement. In that case, once again, you will have another class which implements the engagement strategy. And in this case, it is a workshop with the students and the staff. So once you have engagement strategy, you can actually create a map of string and associate it with a strategy, something like this. And then you can use that as a mechanism to implement engagements within the engagement manager. With the engagement strategy set, I can now change the implementation of the engagement manager in this way. And now what we can do is we can make the staff do the actual engagement based on engagement strategy that we are receiving here. So what we will do is we will go to the staff. Right now what is happening is there is one single class with all these different attributes, and everything is getting handled here, and even the salary is directly getting set. Instead of having a concrete class staff, we will make a abstract class called staff, and then once we have this abstract staff, we can create multiple subclasses of this particular abstract staff, it could be academic staff, it could be, for example, non-academic staff, it could be, say, visiting staff. These staff can decide the engagement strategy. So we will be passing the engagement strategy to this abstract function called as engage students, which is now part of the staff abstract class. This is how, for example, a non-academic staff would look like. Based on the engagement strategy, they will use strategy.engage students. In the same way, I can have academic staff and then visiting staff. And all these basically extend the abstract class called staff. Now with this, I can go back to the engagement manager here and simply call staff.engage students, pass the subject students, and then strategy, which basically gets decided by the staff department name. The next class that we will have a look at is staff manager. This staff manager has a calculate staff salary function and it delegates it to salary manager. And if I go to the salary manager here, this is what it is doing. Staff just got refactored because we basically removed the need for the type. So instead of having this particular class called salary manager, we can completely get rid of this. So what we will do is we will create a interface called as salary calculator, which basically has a function called calculate salary. It takes a parameter of staff, and then there could be multiple implementations of this salary calculator. So once again, I am creating a interface here called as salary calculator, and then depending upon, say, whether the staff is academic, non-academic or visiting, there will be separate subclasses or implementations of this interface salary calculator. So there could be a academic salary calculator and, say, visiting salary calculator, something like, say, this. And in the same way, for a visiting professor, calculations will be slightly different, or maybe it should be fixed for the visiting professor and some complicated logic for the staff from the department. So this would be better. Now with this, I can actually get rid of the salary manager. I can now basically use the salary calculator itself. Now with the salary calculator interface and these subclasses, staff manager actually doesn't need this function at all. So I can get rid of this. So this becomes much simpler. And not only that, now the staff itself can do the calculation based on what calculator interface it gets passed. So what I can do is I can pass another variable here, salary calculator, and then pass that salary calculator here, and I can add another abstract function here called as get salary, and then override that function get salary, and inside this I will basically use salary calculator dot calculate salary and pass the current staff. So that will automatically do the calculation of the salary. Let me do the same for academic staff as well, and same for visiting staff. With this, now the salary calculator is much more simplified. So we have now basically refactored salary manager, staff manager, engagement manager, and staff. Let's pause here for a moment and consider a question. You have seen a lot of code refactoring to achieve compliance with open-close principle. What general pattern do you notice during this refactoring process? Hold that thought and feel free to share your observation in comments below. We still have more refactoring to do to make our code fully compliant with OCP. We will cover the remaining part of this refactoring in the next video. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.